Hello everyone, my name is Yannick Longuet and I am a student in the Computational Brain team. You are watching a video from the Paper to Pixels project, which aims to generate short videos summarizing research papers from the team. In this video, I will present a summary of a fascinating paper published in Nature Communications in November 2025. This article was written by Cédric Foucault, Tiffany Boulmy, Sébastien Demortin, Bertrand Thirion and Evelyn Egger under the supervision of Florent Méniel. This paper attempts to uncover the neural code for probability in the human brain. We constantly assess probabilities to navigate the world, whether we are judging if our boss is lying about a pay raise or predicting tomorrow's weather. Since our behavior is so clearly adapted to these probabilities, logic dictates they must be encoded somewhere in the brain. Yet, finding this code has been notoriously difficult. The only exception is the probability of obtaining a reward, for which the neural correlates are better known. But this study focuses on the probability of neutral events. Previous studies on this topic successfully found neural correlates for surprise or uncertainty, but they often fail to find correlation with probability itself. The authors propose a crucial shift in perspective. Many previous studies assumed that neural activity just increases proportionally with probability. But this paper tests the hypothesis that the brain uses a highly nonlinear code. To validate this, they utilize ultra-high field 7 Tesla fMRI to capture fine-grained neural tuning curves. Let's look at how they did it. The authors recruited 26 participants for a study using ultra-high field 7 Tesla fMRI. Inside the scanner, participants watched a rapid sequence of binary stimuli. Let's call them A and B. But here is the catch. The probability of seeing A can be guessed. It followed a hidden rule that changed abruptly and unpredictably over time. The subject's goal was to constantly act as detectives, mentally estimating this hidden probability. Crucially, the researchers wanted to isolate the pure code of probability. To do this, they asked subjects to perform this estimation covertly. They didn't ask for constant button presses or offered immediate rewards. This was a smart design choice to ensure that the brain activity they recorded wasn't contaminated by motor movements or feelings of reward. But if the subjects aren't speaking, how do we know what they are thinking? The team used a normative model. This is a mathematical ideal observer that calculates the perfect probability estimate for every trial using Bayes' rule. Since behavioral tests showed that humans track this ideal observer very closely, the researchers used the model's estimate as a proxy for the subject's internal thoughts. To test this correspondence, the task occasionally included report periods between two stimuli. During these moments, participants indicated both their current probability estimate and their confidence level. The plot now appearing shows that participants' reported estimates closely match the normative model for probability and are also strongly correlated with it for confidence. Finally, we arrive at the main analytical innovation. To find these estimates in the brain, they compared two types of encoding model. First, the linear model. This is the classic approach. It assumes neural activity simply goes up or down proportionally with probability. And they compared this model with the versatile model. This is the new challenger. It uses a set of basis functions, essentially building blocks that can combine to approximate any shape. To do this, the model uses approximation theory, relying on a set of small, overlapping mathematical curves, here 10 Gaussian basis functions, to represent the variable of interest. The model then predicts neural activity as a weighted sum of these basis functions, allowing it to reconstruct tuning curve of almost any form without making prior assumptions about their shape. The versatile model doesn't care if the neural code is a straight line, a bell curve, or a complex wave. If the code exists, this model can find it. For a control comparison, they also track the neural code for confidence, which previous research suggests should be linear. Now let's move to the results, which reveal a striking dissociation in how the brain encodes information. First, the researchers looked for probability. When they used the standard linear model, assuming brain activity scales up with probability, the results were essentially blank. If you only look for a linear code, you would conclude that the brain doesn't track probability at all. But when they applied the versatile model, the map lit up. They found significant encoding of probability in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex and the intraparietal cortex. This proves that the representation exists, but it is highly nonlinear, making it invisible to standard analysis. In sharp contrast, when they look at confidence, both the linear and versatile models successfully captured the signal in similar regions. This suggests that while confidence is encoded linearly, more confidence equals more activity, a completely different code is used for probability. To understand this code, the team performed a univariate analysis, reconstructing the actual tuning curve inside individual voxels. The tuning curve for confidence were predominantly linear or monotonic. However, the tuning curve for probability were highly non-monotonic. Instead of just going up or down, these voxels were tuned to specific ranges, some firing most at 20%, others at 70%. In fact, about a third of the tuning curve were complex enough to have multiple peaks. Finally, to adopt a different perspective on their data, they used multivariate analysis to look at the geometry of these representations across the cortex. They compared the data to two theoretical patterns: a graded geometry where similar values have similar neural patterns for linear codes, and an identity geometry where every value has a distinct pattern, and the results confirm the previous findings. Confidence followed the graded geometry, but probability followed an identity geometry. This means the brain represents probability and confidence with very different codes. So what do these findings tell us about the brain? This study provides strong evidence that the brain uses two distinct coding schemes for two distinct types of information. Variables that drive action, like confidence or reward, seems to rely on a linear code. This makes sense. A more is better signal is easy for downstream circuits to read when deciding whether to act or how much effort to invest. On the other hand, probability, which is a latent property of the environment, is encoded using a nonlinear code based on tuning curves. We could imagine that this might be an energy-efficient strategy. Because the population of neurons covers the whole range of probabilities, the total energy budget remains constant regardless of whether the probability is low or high. Ultimately, this paper serves as a methodological wake-up call. The reason previous studies failed to find the probability code wasn't because it wasn't there. It was because we were looking for it with the wrong tools. The diversity of tuning curves found in the prefrontal and the parietal cortex suggests that future neuroimaging studies must move beyond the assumption of simple linear relationships. By embracing versatile encoding models, we can uncover richer, more complex representations that have remained hidden in plain sight. Thank you for watching this summary of a nonlinear code for event probability in the human brain. If you want to dive deeper into the math or the 7 Tesla acquisition details, we have linked the full paper in the description below. Have a nice day!